What are some reasons you ghosted someone? I caught her cheating. I saw her passionately kissing another guy, like, full on making out with him, and immediately called her phone to make sure it wasn't someone who just looked like her. Spoiler, it was her. She lied about where she was, and what she was doing. I had been cheated on before, and it had broken me. She knew this. I decided that I wasn't going through that again, blocked her on everything, and cut her out of my life. I ghosted basically my father's entire side of the family. The only reason they ever contact me is when they need money. I am not your personal bank just because you are related to me. I didn't mean to. I saw the notification and I decided to reply later, but I forgot and now it's been too long for me to reply without it being weird. We hadn't even met in person, just exchanged numbers over a dating app, and she was already getting pissy about me not texting her back fast enough. That was a red flag and I was too much of a coward to tell her to scram, so I just stopped responding completely. She didn't go into stalker mode or anything, just a few more snarky texts. When I realized that over the last 12 years I'd known her, she only ever called when she wanted something. Something had broken. She needed work doing. She needed someone to look after her kid. The last time we spoke was when she called at close to midnight telling me she needed a babysitter because she wanted to go meet some guy she'd been chatting to. Told her I couldn't as I'd had a few drinks and couldn't drive. Her response? Get a taxi then. She was an emotional and spiritual vampire. One of the reasons I deleted Tinder because I would usually get ghosted. Yeah, to the girls who wanted me to follow their Insta first before saying hi, that's a hell nah for me dog. Would hand the phone to someone else and they would talk to me for a bit. Nothing wrong, right? Except it was actually her imaginary friends, of which she had many of, and would talk through her. We were in high school. Edit. Forgot to mention about a year later I saw her while I was holding hands with my new GF and thank God she didn't recognize me. Went on a date with someone who talked to me at the store. We went for a walk and there he asked me question about the universe and stuff. Nothing wrong here. When he continued to claim that due to the universe women are weak and will never ever understand the complexity of human beings, nature and the universe without men, I knew that ain't it. I was seeing someone who out of nowhere became so clingy, followed by not being able to take no for an answer. Started calling me his girlfriend after our second date, very casual dating, then tried to push me to have his baby and get married. Lol, this guy was a mess. After explaining to him he was moving too quick and it was starting to put me off, to which he did not listen to, I had no choice but to disappear. I was tired of him playing out the same exact cycle of relationship drama over and over. Okay, mine is not about a it was actually a friend, ex-friend I should say. This girl was cheating on her husband, who happened to be a very nice and successful guy. The guy she was cheating with had a girlfriend, but my friend wanted him all to herself and was extremely jealous of her. So what she decides to do is pretend that she is pregnant, texts him when she knows he is with the GF to get him in trouble so that they can break up, all while having a holeless husband. That is just about 5% of the full story. She caused this huge mess. I still have no clue how the husband was not approached by the guy's GF or how he hasn't found out about the affair. I deeply dislike deceitful, selfish people and decided to just get away from her little by little. Multiple times a week with online dating. There's no point responding if you're having a nice conversation and a guy suddenly A, drops the N-word or some other bigotry, B, admits they are not single, and hoping to cheat with you, C, starts getting aggressive when you don't respond in 30 seconds, D, they won't agree to a meeting. They just keep trying to sext all day every day, and ask for nudes. I ghosted my best friend after realizing she was partially responsible for the suicidal thoughts I was having. Very toxic personality who seemed to enjoy people's sadness and pain. I used to think she was drawn to people who needed help, but realized later on that she preyed on them. Being around someone whose life was worse than hers or who was hurting more than her made her feel better about herself. As soon as the person would start to heal, she would disappear. I had a massive crush on a guy in college. He could have done absolutely nothing to ruin it for himself. Level of massive crush. Fast forward 10 years and he decides to start texting me again after us not speaking at all in that time, and my cell number hadn't changed. He remembered me as an extremely insecure 19-year-old girl who would have accepted any positive male attention whatsoever instead of acknowledging that it had literally been 10 years and I was pointing out how things had changed, which he was ignoring so he could continue assuming I was still exactly the same. While I'm not a fan of ghosting as a whole, I'm more than happy to not be swept under a rug. I'm not proud of this because I would be destroyed if anyone did it to me, but I had just gotten out of a long relationship that was pretty rough and met him. The sex was amazing, but he only knew me for a month before he wanted to be very serious, meet my kids, told me loved me, didn't like when I hung out with other friends, etc. Red flags everywhere. I was proud of myself for noticing them and just literally blocked him in every way. I wish I knew a better way to deal with it, but it was all I had left in me. I started ghosting everyone. Why? I rejected men for second or third dates politely, thanks for the lovely evening, but I don't think we're a match, etc. And was repeatedly met with insults and even threats. So civility wasn't worth it. Ghosting usually doesn't elicit these responses. Had a friend who was schizophrenic. Didn't bother me as it wasn't really my business until I get a Snapchat at 2 AM saying just saw you dead in my bathroom. You have a pretty scream. I didn't exactly ghost, but quickly decreased the amount of conversations I had with him until we just stopped talking because a lot of them were making me uncomfortable. I loved them, but they broke my heart too many times. I met this girl at work, really cool at first. We start talking and she would constantly bring up her ex. How he was a piece of shit and yada yada. After I changed the subject, she then asked me if I wanted to hear a poem about him. I say sure. It's a poem about how much he hurt her and all that. I asked her if she was over him and she said yay, I've been over him. Yay, sure you are. A friend just became too much to deal with after her divorce. She became the most neediest drama queen and self-centered. It got to the point where people would ask me if I was hanging out with her before inviting me places. I finally had enough. He Snapchatted me every few minutes about how I was made for him and he was going to make me the happiest guy ever and how he'd do anything to make me happy. We had talked maybe a few days and it was mostly just what kind of books do you read? What's your favorite TV show? When I stopped responding, he insisted I sent him my address so he could come see me. Me and her were set to go on a date, but the morning of she texts me that she can't go. I ask why and she said she got her period so we can't fuck. I told her I understood if she wasn't feeling well, but I didn't expect nor wanted to sleep with her yet, as it was our first date and I didn't feel comfortable with that level of intimacy with a stranger. She called me a pussy and freaked the fuck out. Kept calling me to laugh at me and sent texts mocking me. IDKWTF. Her problem was, I just blocked her and felt glad that she didn't know where I lived. She seemed fucking insane. Only and last time I've used an online dating site. I had a friend who had a thing for me and I turned her down. She didn't want to hear that, so she tried to guilt me into it. Homie, don't play that. She gave up after a couple weeks. I wish it was faster, but hey ho. It's almost always a guy who can't deal with just being friends. It's pretty clear their motives are to eventually try to date fuck me, and I can't deal with that being the underlying tone of every conversation. Ghosting is unfortunately the only option with them. I feel like everyone just tolerates me enough but in reality hates me. They ghosted me, so fuck 'em. Before anything is said, I'd like to note that I made it perfectly clear I was not looking for any relationship besides being friends. So I met this guy online and he seemed extremely nice and fun to be around for the first week we talked. After a while he started telling me all these awful things that happened to him, such as his GF getting shot in front of him, getting in a car accident and all his friends dying etc. I was sympathetic at first, but he got really clingy and was asking what I was doing every 30 seconds, calling my phone and trying to know who I was with as if we were in a relationship. When I started to ghost him a bit in conversations, he would get mad and say he was going to do something awful to himself. I eventually blocked him on everything because it was getting to be toxic. I don't have anything to say and I won't be forced into a conversation I don't want to be a part of. We had something, it ended and that was it. I don't want to be a friend or be reminded of the most horrible part of my life. I feel ghosting is the nicest way I can tell this person to stay the fuck away from me. It's been 20 years and this one still tries to reach out over messages and such. Move along. I'm married and don't ever want to hear from you again. He was obsessive and didn't respect my boundaries. I mean, he meant well but got attached so quickly and immediately thought he had all of my respect. He thought he was so much more important to me than people who had been in my life for years. He also deliberately did shit that made me uncomfortable regardless of how many times I asked him to stop. Even after me making it clear that we're not nearly as close as he thinks, he still wouldn't let go of his stupid attachment to me. Even now he asks if I'm upset at him, as if I hadn't explained all of this to him in detail several times. He gets under my skin and I hate it. I advanced in life. My best friends decided to be shitty welfare sucking, multiple kid having, do nothings with no goals or ambitions. When I moved to my dream city I pretty much just ghosted them. She was much older than she initially let on, and had 4 kids. I didn't contact her again after the first date. I became like Casper. She killed me. Literally. And by ghost law, you are required to haunt your murderer for a minimum of 6 months. I just ghost people who won't take responsibility for their behavior. There's no point in addressing it directly and explaining to them why I'm removing them from my life. There's always an excuse, always a deflection, always an attempt to spin the narrative and shift the blame. When I realize what they are, I just remove them from my life and block all avenues of contact. He liked me. I said I wanted to stay friends but then he got mean. When he wanted to talk again I just ignored him and had to block him eventually. Some girl I met on a dating app. We had a 1-hour phone call. I understand that she came out of a bad breakup and her ex-boyfriend of 3 years was horrible. The date after that went well but it wasn't great either. She hadn't gotten over him at all. She still kept in contact with him. She even met him and cancelled with me. Just to see him. I knew where I was in her priorities. I ain't no rebound. So I kind of just faded out of her life after that. Can you come into work today? Sex game horrible. Showed signs of crazy or jealousy. Wasn't what I thought they would look like. Amazing how often that happened. Clingy controlling. Racist remarks, jokes. Arrogance. Hanging out the passenger side of his best friend's ride, trying to holler at me. Too young, even though I'm only 19 but I'm not going to pursue anyone below 18, no matter how genuine or persistent she is. I ghosted the same person twice. I guess I was just a douche teenager. I regret it 10 years later. Not because I want them, but because they were a nice person who deserved better. I was in love with her, but she was dating one of my good friends. Watching him mistreat her broke my heart, so I ended up pushing them both away. I ghosted a person I was in a relationship once when I had just graduated from high school because I was really embarrassed about the relationship. The whole relationship was a secret relationship because the person was much older than me and a well-known a-hole, and I was only in relationship because the person was really good looking. I do regret it, but I was really immature and the person actually deserved it. I was just a straight up coward. Shit happens and there's only so much you can do at a certain time, I feel like. I used to talk to this one guy though we'd never met IRL. He was nice and we trolled together on games and stuff. My heart dropped when he told me he liked me. I don't know what it was, but maybe a panic attack. I was just afraid and so I politely said that I didn't like him back. Never spoke since. I feel that when someone confesses, it ruins the friendship most of the time. Let's just stay friends never works out. Never for me, at least. I don't usually ghost people. I remember I met a girl on Tinder. I didn't get the vibe that we were interested in each other romantically, but we had similar professional hobbies, and there were things that I admired about her work ethic and success, so I wanted to be friends with her. We were both on Tinder and in a small town. And I heard from one of my dates that she and her friend had slept with the guy that she was dating, and I got the sense that she didn't know about it, so I told her. I guess she got stalker vibes or something from me because she just left our chats and we never spoke again, lol. Owl. He said he was in love with me and wanted to spend the rest of his life with me after the first date. I tried reasoning with him and he couldn't be convinced that maybe that's a little crazy. Wouldn't take no for an answer,